Hi. So, in today's video, I'll be telling you more about the meeting with my friend Mikołaj Lewandowski, who actually turned out to be somebody else. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about a lot of internal processes. And I think I was hypnotized by the person who actually I led them to enter my house thinking that they were my friend from the past. So, yeah, it's still um, further events from my book Piglet. So, if you're curious, stay tuned and let's dive in. So, I'll start with with the story of how I met actually Mikołaj. So Mikołaj started to go with me to drawing classes, um, and I think he was also a friend of my friend Ella, and we were back then we were teenagers. I started to go to drawing classes when I was 13, and I think I have finished when I was 18 or 19 years old. And he was a very nice person to me. He was, he invited me to a dancing party at school, and he, yeah, it's basically, he could lead a conversation in a very in a bit unusual way, but together Mikołaj, Ella, and I, we just sat during those classes, drawing classes, and we laughed together a lot. So a lot of years has gone by because it's been at least 15 years that I haven't seen this man, and uh, I texted him on Facebook, or he texted me that he was coming back to Tarnów. Mikołaj was from Zbytowska Góra, and that's where Sacra Care monastery is placed, where I was teaching children English. And I never visited him, but part of the Jewish history also, during the Second World War happened over there. So at least I learned one thing. I learned from Adam Bartosz's book that 800 Jewish children were taken to Zbytowska Góra, which is very, very close to Tarnów, like 10 minutes by bus from here. And they were killed over there in the forest. So when I read that, I wanted to go and visit Mikołaj, and I linked that with Mikołaj. And even when I was in a Jewish festival, and I was walking with Miss Joanna Nosowska-Babik, I was thinking about Mikołaj and Zbytowska Góra, because she mentions children with regard to the book, the children of the world. And I've been thinking about, Mikołaj was inviting me, and I never went there, and maybe I should have gone there. So when I visited my professor, my sponsor, on the 9th of September, then the same day I had a meeting scheduled with Mikołaj after not seeing him for 15 years at least. And I opened the door and I saw a man from a little bit of a distance. He wasn't really standing in front of the door. And I had this thought that it doesn't look like him, but yet I invited him even with my gestures, and I told him to come in, and and I was sitting with the shawl on my head, a red shawl, but that didn't help much. And sometimes I just put my sunglasses on, but I was sitting in half sleep, so to say, feeling very, very refreshed, and time was going by very, very quickly during that, I would say, hypnotic session. And because during 3 hours, it seemed like he was eating and eating, and he was eating a sandwich, and he 3 hours had gone by, he was leaving the place, and turned out he ate only half of the sandwich. So, uh, okay. Yeah, so barely he entered, I told him to take off his shoes, and I was walking in my thoughts over it, like, should I really tell him to do so if I still had, this nail fungus on my nails? And so, because was walking over that in my thoughts, I told him that, I have this fungus, and it's probably best you should change your socks at home, but you should be fine. Um, and, you know, I didn't manage to say as much I was, thinking in my head. And when you are doing those processes, you're coming internally into yourself, then you can convey many more messages and much more information than when you actually speak. So the thoughts were coming up in my mind, and the questions were showing up in my mind. A lot of them, like, how did I come out of a circle, of my own circle of repetitive experience? Um, how did I, resign from embassy? And he also mentioned the bar next door, and the gypsy club bar next door, and he mentioned that there were a lot of tourists in Krakow lately. And, basically, he was referring to the fact that a lot of people followed me, but he called it in a different way. And as if was a meeting about exploring my fears, exploring the blame, whom should I be, afraid of, and blamed for. And it was also about giving me an offer to find a job that would be satisfying for me as a mental exchange and as a mental, transaction, so to say. Which obviously they are just mind games, but it happened. I experienced it. So we would go over my professor, my sponsor, whom I met that day, and questions were showing up, like, how did he help me? Why did I like him? Um, and even I acted out the part of the meeting I had with my professor at the beginning when we met. It was our second meeting, when we were sitting in the corridor having a cup of coffee. I didn't that day, but he's the best. He always buys me coffee, so I, I owe him, yeah, really, with the time he spent with me. So yeah. uh, So, and I acted out part of the meeting that I had with him, our second meeting, when I turned to him and I told him that I can't do everything for you and you have to speak up for yourself. Um, which is an easy thing to say, but it's not an easy thing to do. And I mean, not always is an easy thing to do when you face glitches, but yeah, we'll get to it too. Um, okay, so there were also questions about astral projection, like who told me astral projection, and yeah, it was many years ago that I had an impression I saw my professor sitting in my room. Um, but I wasn't sure at that time. Back then I wasn't sure if I'm just imagining things and so on. And then at the hospital, when my father was actually dying, I saw my brother-in-law. I saw an astral projection of him, but I also saw my boss, whom I found interesting. So I saw an astral projection of him too. So here was this blame game, like who showed me things, like who taught me things. Um, And questions like, why did I take off my sunglasses in front of my professor? And it was obviously all because at that time I was walking to him for him to see what is going to happen in the future, because I believe my prof is Jewish, and I believe he's got extrasensory perception developed so he can do things. um, and at that time, probably, yeah. But I never asked like explicitly, so tell me, what will I do next? Or something like that. And therefore, my relation and my conversation would become a little bit off if I wasn't looking at the person to gain the feedback from their face, because I was trying to somehow, protect them all of a sudden. Because if I read their face and I will know it from their reactions, then somebody is gonna know, and it's gonna start, this blame game, like, who showed me things, how do you know things? um so right now I just try to be more direct with my questions. If I have a question that somebody is not comfortable with, then that person can just always tell me, like, sorry, I can tell you, or something, right? um and and there were other things about professor, like, how, because I was in my mind thinking about him and thinking that he actually was even better than the gypsy in the game of giving you false hope, like telling you you will get very good for your on your diploma, for your bachelor thesis, because that was a great project you did. And I did it. With that project, I did it. I was sitting on it day and night, and I did it. And then he gave me 4. He gave me good, not very good. So trust me, when I was leaving the office, I was totally convinced I would never speak to this man, and I would never say even hi to him. And it was the end. It was over. So in that sense, he made me experience very strong emotion. And that didn't happen to a lot of people actually in my life, like, to make me um and as I revealed that information to that guy, and he looked like an Arabic guy, and even when sitting in front of me, that person would check how Mikołaj actually looked, and he would adjust his appearance in my visual perception. He would adjust his appearance to that memory of Mikołaj. And he even told me I called him Mickey. I didn't call him Mickey, but with Mickey, it's going to be very symbolic about the mouse later on. With Mickey Mouse, Mickey with the mark that resembles a mouse, that's connected with my mom seeing mouse when she got me in her tummy, and then I have a mark. um Okay, so um, so he was exploring, like, yeah, so this is where it would hurt you if somebody wouldn't like the way you wrote something, or if you would get a bad remark about your book or something. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I already received a lot of bad remarks about my life, and a lot of judgment about my life. So I think I'm totally fine. And I trust me, when I was writing the book, it was a mental challenge, and it shouldn't be. So yeah, I told you about the process more or less. So I was like, no, this is more factual, this is more about registering things. And I have to accept that in that book there was no space for being creative, and and be fine about it. So he was still checking further, like, what was unique or what I consider original about the book. And there were some answers coming, but yeah, but come on. And then there was further checking about Jewish people, and how did I know that pigs are related to Jewish people? Actually, well, I thought about my photography teacher. I met him not so long ago, and he borrowed me 3 books about Jewish people. 2 of them were written by Adam Bartosz, and one of them was written by Agnieszka Wierzchowska. And um, and when I opened the book in front of him, just to see the text, just to see what kind of writing that is, if I would like it, if I could connect to it or not, I opened it and I didn't even go through like, 4 lines and I closed it. And then I kept those books and I didn't look at them. I didn't open them for a while. And then once I opened them, I had to kind of force myself to start reading. But when I started to read, I found so many references to pigs, and then I started to link them with my, experience from MA. But when I was thinking about that in front of that man, then he would send me a thought. No, that this is my second professor, Katarzyna Bazarnik, who introduced some articles about pigs in Denmark, or Winnie the Pooh, where is this Piglet, and Piglet ended up being the title of my book. So it was about searching whom and how they could blame and whom I would be worried about and scared about. um, so for me, the direction of those questions would tell me that you know he came over to my house, presented himself as Mikołaj Lewandowski, but he wasn't Mikołaj Lewandowski, and he was somebody else. He was an Arabic boy guy, and he just kept on questioning me. Yeah, a lot of those questions were just appearing in my mind, but you have to watch your thoughts too, to know which of those thoughts are not actually yours, because you think about something, then you act on that thought. Yeah. um and then I still was thinking about my photography teacher, about Jan Gomoa, and the way he was operating with gestures, like, you know um such a gesture. I have seen it with Zosia Wisniewska, or even with my grandma, or um with Jan Gomoa. He would do something like keep his hand here and then ah. and I was explaining to him how I understood he operated with gestures in hypnosis. Um, and as I kept those hands like this, then I was going over the entire conversation with this Arabic boy, and then I thought, okay, it's about the courts, and yeah. And I think there was also an explicit question about the court and the London in London. And in the past, I was coming, as in the past, I was in London for a trip with my mom. I was supposed to go as a guide, to help her around, and to have experience together. And my siblings paid for that trip. I didn't contribute in any way, as most of the times. And when I was with my mom, we just didn't have a great time, because even if we went to buy a cup of coffee at the museum, we weren't treated nicely. Like, people would look at us in a mean way or something. But when I told about it, my friend Simon, he told me no, they weren't British, and I'm like, well, you know what, with that coffee, no, but it happened. And there were so many people over there that I was like, woof. And once we got back to Poland, we were told, I was told by my sister that my mom shouldn't walk as much as she walked, and I was told that, and she walked too much, and she had problems with her spine. So it was, for me, such a remark is a blame related remark. And if you cannot, you don't have any more energy to walk, then you should say so. And also the memory came to my mind, like with going on the boat with my mom, and the people would from the staff sit in front of us and eat a salad, and me and my mom, we didn't buy a salad, and we felt bad because of it, because somebody ate in front of us. Like, you can have this salad, you can eat as a staff, sure thing, but just don't eat in front of the tourists, I think this is not fair, and I think it's done so that you would feel sorry that you didn't buy it, or that so that you would buy it. But um, I don't find it a nice way to do that, um, and therefore I think I recall that because before going to London, I fasted for a long time, so it was about the salad that I didn't eat, the salad that I didn't have, I believe. And and he was exploring Federer, like my drawing teacher Yetsukutsaba. What I really thought about his art, and I really didn't think much about his art. I didn't analyze his art or try to evaluate his art in any way. It was just my observation how I was acting in the city center. It was the street I used to live in Vałova in the past, and I used to walk the street there and back. And when this bench of poets appeared, I just never looked at it. I think one time when I sat on that bench, I was thinking, okay, I'm sitting here for my teacher. It's for my teacher. And I was that day I was considering to going and reading the poetry perhaps that was closed with the key, and that was pretty much it. And then I saw him also uncovering the sculpture of Brandstätter, and I was passing by just to go shopping to the to the shop for some pencils or carbon to draw, and I saw him, and it was the very opening of his sculpture, and there were not even 10 people. And I have to tell you that when I used to go to drawing classes with him, there were a lot of people coming by, a lot of his previous students. They could show up and show support. And when he was having the opening of the sculpture, they were not even 10 people. And here the argument is that Brandstätter is a Jewish man. um, but this is how illusions work. And a sure thing, occultists enter every sphere in every institution, and they write books or they create sculptures or art just to you know mislead people. um, so that was my only thing that I have observed, that I wasn't looking at that sculpture as if that sculpture was um, the bench of the poets, as if that was invisible. So he was exploring theater, like, how about my brother? And he even sent me a thought that they had a permission to hurt my brother, and I questioned if I would write about it, or if the story would be the same, then wouldn't I write about it? So exploring a lot of the things together with um, things like if the lamp would drop on my face, then I would get hurt and I would look ugly, and that could be done too. And he even took a photo of the lamp so that he could induce some fears in me that there was a camera in the lamp and so on. Because at some moment in my life there was a camera even in my umbrella. So trust me, this is how it proceeds, and it can be any stupid thought, and they are just therefore you have to watch your thoughts and you have to meditate. So he was exploring what would I say to my family. Um, and I was even acting this out with my mom. So when I was doing the sandwich and coffee to him, I brought him some cream, and he told me that it was expired. So that's the typical thing for us. And I showed it my mom. I asked for some milk, and mom tasted it first, and she told me it was okay. And when tasting it, she spilled a little bit of that. So I think it was about the milk. My mom supposedly didn't have any milk when she gave a birth to me. So some unknown woman would feed me with her own milk. Um, and therefore, I would say that that's also some part that would speak about our lack of, connection. And, and And a thought occurred in my mind, like, she says it's okay. The milk, the cream is okay when it's not okay. So that was the entire acted out conversation with my mom. But then I also acted it with my sister. So I just talked to her about the letter she sent from the past she denied. And, I told her about our uncle pedophile, but I couldn't recall what to say next. And the same way I showed him this man who told me he was Mickey. I didn't call even Mikołaj Mickey, but okay. So, so look at the semantics too. So the same way I showed him two fingers, I showed her two fingers. And then she asks like, "And what?" And I cannot say, I cannot recall, "And what?" So she gave me the money, and when I was walking back home, I had a thought like, "Have money and shut your mouth." And also on the way home, I saw this man, once again, this Mickey. But this is the part of intimidation, like, with just their presence, not much, but just with the presence. But I think, entering somebody else's house is just an exaggeration. And I wrote in my book that sooner or later they will just actually start living with me. So when I realized a few things, then I realized that actually all my life lived with occultists. Then I've been thinking about, visiting my aunt, and I also, that was in my plan, the list to do, visiting my aunt and talking to them about the book and helping them. And when I arrived, they just texted me that they had a visit. They were visiting their friends, and they arrived late, and I managed to tell them about, the fact that I infected my family. So I slept by my second aunt, and in the morning, my second aunt was taking care of my cousin's baby, and that baby got a rash. And, as this baby got the rash and I got the rash, of course there was, a friend of my aunt came around, and she used the trolley, and the rhythm of the trolley, she was moving it like that with the baby. And I felt a little bit dizzy in my head. And very quickly, I developed a little bit of acne. But when I was walking with my aunt to get the train, I felt cold, and I just naturally put gloves on. And I spotted just on the train. So, the baby and I, we got the rash. So I believe this was supposed to stop me from coming by, and this was supposed to make me believe that I infected the baby with something when I knew already I was everything was out of the system, because even because of the number of fasts I did in my life and the length of fasts I did in my life. But sure thing, I did the tests for blood test for venereal diseases in the past. So, the next thing, he was also checking the job, the dream job I could have. So it was about doing something physical, so cleaning. And my cousin had a company with cleaning. So I texted them, and I was wondering if I should go there, because it would be in the area which is the mountainous area in Krynica. And I would be living close to the forest in my mom's flat. My mom's flat is close to the forest, so I would have the forest at work and at home. And my mom, when I was asked my mom, she told me that just don't bring me shame. And then door to the bar. I'm not sure what I was supposed to tell you more. But there was one more question, like, why don't I drop the topic, why don't I step away from the topic of Jewish people? And that was the very first of the stories I uncovered that, came to me. Um, and when, the longer you think of it, the Second World War, like, you know, that Jewish people actually couldn't hide even by Polish people, because there was the threat that Polish people would be killed because of them. So imagine you have to go and hide anywhere, and you can't ask for help. Well, you can ask for help, but if anything, that then somebody will die because they try to protect your life. And I don't know if you know about it, but I didn't know about it. I didn't know that, the borders for other countries, the entry for other countries were closed for Jewish people during that time, and they couldn't just go and try and run away and hide in a foreign country. I mean, um, so that's really, really, really unfair. It's really unfair situation, and it really is unusual to have the war that focuses on eliminating one nation till the last person. It's really, really horrible. And when I was on a trip to Auschwitz, I saw a ghost. And I saw a woman who was, maybe a teenager, maybe 20 years old, a beautiful woman. And then I looked at my Polish teacher, and I looked at the ghost as if, wondering if she has seen it, and it seemed like she's seen it too. And as I looked at her and then back at the ghost was gone. But, she was skinny, she had no hair, and she even fell in front of me because of lack of the energy. Um, and there was something horrible in that place. Um, just when walking there, you could feel it. So yeah. Um, so that's one of the stories the book is about, but it's also about uh, many other stories where this numerology of number 6 and number 9 shows up too. Um, so if you want to learn more about my book Piglet, if you want to learn more about the way the system is organized, and if you want to learn more about even the process of writing and how I was navigating between all those choices and all those institutions and sponsors that I was thinking of, foundations that I was wanting to contact, and how did it all go, then drop me a line at elkinga788@gmail.com. And if you want to check out my course, Amelia, if you want to learn more about identities of sexually abused men and women, if you want to learn more about mind games, manipulation, and control, then check the link in the description of the film. So you'll find all the info in the description of the film. You'll find them on my website and on my Facebook, Instagram account. So if you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this video, share it with other people. And thanks for watching.